let's just sew whatever.
Hello everybody, in today's video we are making the Schmedium Transponster bag from Sincerely Jen Pattern Co. This was in the initial test phase of the pattern, so some measurements may have changed. If I say anything in the video, it could very well be different. Really quick, I'm just cutting out pattern pieces and figuring out what I need to cut and planning my materials, kind of seeing how it all ties together, which is honestly one of the most fun parts about bag making, is just putting it all together. Alright, I've got all of my pieces cut out and I am just making it so that my cut list has some dry erase capabilities. I went ahead and picked out my fabrics. I don't want to use anything that's really way too thick because we're going to be top stitching the sides of the bag, so you got to think about the layers that you're combining when folded together. So I'm going to use one of my mid-weight vinyls, not accessory weight. I'm going to use water resistant canvas instead of a thicker waterproof canvas. And then I'm using one of my older releases of a Luxe metallic vinyl. I think this one is Seafoam. So this is going to be my exterior contrast, which I don't know that there is anything like that listed. And then this is going to be my exterior main. And then this is the webbing that I picked out. This one is from Georgia Girl Stitches. It's the Paradise Blue. I love this webbing. It's so pretty. And it's really easy to know where the center is, which is what I like about it. Because like it's like a chevron, I don't know. Anyway. So we want to cut handles 27 inches long. And this is for the Schmedium size. So that's the one I'm working on. If you're working on a different size, your measurements may be a little bit different. And then there is a 60-inch crossbody strap. $30 and $30. And I have just enough to make something else. Who knows what? I'll just use that tape to hold that together. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start a little bin of all of my pieces. So that I can stay organized with what's cut. And then here I can use an Expo marker and just say, okay, I've cut out my handles and I have cut out my adjustable crossbody strap. So it's up to you if you want to work through your cut list first or your pattern pieces first, or a mixture of the two of them. My exterior main, I'm using a damaged piece of vinyl, so I have to be careful with what I'm looking at, what I'm working with here. And so I'm lining up on the fold. One thing I like about the microfiber backed vinyls that I carry is that like your paper kind of sticks to it really nicely. I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat press on. Oh, I already did. Great, good for me. And then I really want to make sure that I know which way is up for this pattern. So I'm just going to mark a little arrow, because you might get confused when you get to your table which way this goes, and that could really ruin your bag. So So there's my exterior main. I don't plan on interfacing this at all. The interfacing instructions given are if you're using a woven fabric. So just kind of use your best judgment for that. And then I like to use clips to help hold that on the fold so it doesn't shift. And because I know this is a rectangle, it doesn't matter which way that fold marked line is going. And again, can't hurt to mark which way is up. And then I like to clip like pieces together as well and put that in my pile. And since I only needed to cut those 2 pieces, I can even clip my pattern piece to it. Since it's a new pattern, it's nice to kind of keep all those pieces together if you don't know what it is when you get to your machine. So I'm back on the cut list for my crossbody connectors. So I'm going to cut this to 4. Well, it says 2 by 3, so I'll just 2 by 3. Cut 2 of those. I'm using this medium weight vinyl for those because I'm going to be top stitching through that seam, and this will help with minimal bulk. And then I've got double-sided tape here so that I can just tape down the center. And this is 1/2 inch wide double-sided tape from Weft and Warp Co. As you can see, it's super easy to rip, which is one of my favorite things about it. So then I'm just going to place that in my bucket, and then I can cross off my crossbody connector from my cut list. Handle accents. So this gets sewn over your webbing handle. So I'm trying to decide, do I want it to be this print or my solid exterior? I think I'm going to go with the print. 5.5 by 2 1/4. Oh, there is an exterior contrast. Great. Interior zipper pocket. That's going to be our lining. Slip pockets. Cut 1 exterior, 1 lining. So you could cut 2 of these out for each side of the bag, and I might do that. And then I need to cut lining out of this, so I'm going to just lay that on top of my lining. Slip pocket, cut 1 exterior. slip pocket accent. I'm going to cut that out of the contrast. Zipper panels. Go ahead and cut that 8 by 2 1/4. Okay, and then I need lining of that. I'm not going to be using any interfacing because I think those materials together are enough. So I'll go ahead and mark off that I cut 2 of my exterior. And then the zipper tab I don't need to cut out because I'm going to be using zipper end hardware instead. So I'm just going to look over my pattern pieces one more time. I've got my stabilizer here, bottom panel, exterior side panel. I think I'm going to use this as my bottom panel so that the bulk of the seams when I'm top stitching around the side panels is not too bad. So we'll cut that out super quick. And then I'm going to put this in my lining pile. Yeah, there's our bottom panel. And then the strap tab, I think that this fabric matches the webbing a lot better. So I'm going to be cutting my strap tabs out of this fabric. And I think I'm going to like kind of fussy cut it into this area. Ooh, yeah, that's so pretty. This one's super easy to cut with a rotary cutter too. Like, I love the one from Lance Handmade, but it's a little bit trickier. Such a pretty shape though. And now I can even put some double-sided tape on these pieces because I know I'm going to use it when I get to my machine, and it's just saving me that much time. And I can clip those together. Cut, unfold, 2 exterior contrasts, so we're good. Alright, and that is it for the contrast fabric, or exterior fabric, whichever way you want to look at that. I'll move on to this gorgeous vinyl. So I'm going to start by checking out my cut list. Looks like my slip pocket accent accent needs to be cut. Wow, if I could talk, that would be excellent. What's nice is this gets covered by your handles. And so just to help myself later, I'm going to go ahead and mark my center line. And add some double-sided tape to this. And instead of one wide piece, you could do two smaller so that you're not sewing through it. But I know that my machine will be okay. My goodness, can't talk. Okay, so that is my slip pocket accent. All done. So it looks like that's all that I can cut out of this exterior from my additional cut list. So I can move on to my actual pattern pieces. So I've just got my exterior side panel. It's lining, stabilizer, and stabilizer. So great, easy peasy. Because the size of this, because the shape of this piece is so specific, instead of cutting it on the fold, I'm actually just going to trace it and then cut it. And while I'm at it, I'm going to mark out my darts. Is it marking? Hello? Are you there? Could be out. Are you out already? Not quite. Oh, might be dried out. You and me both. Okay, yeah, one's dried out. Regular old ink pen to the rescue. Okay. If you wanted to like carefully cut this out with like an X-Acto knife or something too, you could do that. And then instead of marking the entire length, I'm just marking in a tiny little bit and then lining up those registration marks with the pattern piece. It's always so hard to imagine the size of the bag when it's like on the fold pieces. I don't know why. Another reason I like to trace pattern pieces this way is because I'm going to have my center marks now as well. And then marked out those darts so that we can top stitch that into place as well. So there is one of the side panels. And then because the side panel is angled, you can put these in opposite directions to conserve your fabric if your print is not directional, which is one of the reasons I was like, oh, I'll just use a contrast for the side panel, so we're not wasting materials. And if you're worried about some of those pieces being wavy, you can always take your ruler across like the top edge and trim it so it's nice and straight as well. There are my side panels. I'm only cutting on my exterior because the way the bag is created, your exterior is going to get folded down and become the top of your lining. It's kind of cool. It's really cool. So that's it for the accent fabric, is just those side panels and the tops of my slip pockets. So now I can move on to my lining and getting my interfacing cut. Alright, so I'm going to check my additional cut list first, and I see I need an interior zippered pocket. So I will go ahead and cut that first. I need to get like a 12 by 12 ruler. Alright, what did I say that one? That'd be a waste up there. Lining pocket. And then going down the line, I then need my slip pocket pieces. And I have chosen to make 2 slip pockets. It's not part of the pattern. I just figured I'm already going to be doing it, may as well. And if you did not want to add a slip pocket, you do not have to. And then I'm just going to tape these together. Because these aren't going to get sewn right sides together and then flipped. We are just going to be adding the accent over top. And from what I understand, that accent isn't going to go all the way across, just to help keep your seams from being too bulky. So that is what that will end up looking like. And then I'll just clip all this together and top stitch that accent on and then baste around the edges. My top edge here is just a little bit wavy, so I'm going to go ahead and square that up. And when I'm lining up the top edge of that pocket, I'm going underneath the top edge, like less than 1/8 of an inch, so that I can still see my pen mark of the center, and then I'm folding it over. So what that does is it's giving me just that little bit of wiggle room to not miss the underside when I top stitch, because you got to consider the amount of bulk your materials are that you're folding over top of. So we got 2 slip pockets. I'll set those over there. And now I can cross off that I've got my slip pocket pieces, and now I just need my zipper panels, and that is it for the cut list. And then I'm going to measure 1 inch in from the edge of all of these pieces, so that when I get to my sewing machine, it'll already be marked out to make the zipper panel. Now, I have not read over the entire instructions for this bag, but this is my general understanding for the way that Sincerely Jen Patterns makes their zipper panels. But if I'm assuming incorrectly, we'll know it when we sew it. So there are those pieces all done, and I can go ahead and wipe off my cut list, and then it's ready for the next time I want to make one. Okay, we'll move on to our lining pieces. I always like to kind of clean up and tidy as I go as well. Okay. I'm gonna get a ruler for, well, no, I don't need one for this one. Because I know it's gonna be 6 wide. I was considering making one out of clear vinyl as well, just because I think it would be really fun. But after I make one, I'll know how it comes together and I might be able to do that. I think that would be super fun. Alright, so there is my lining panel. I'm not going to add the Decaville light, but I could see that that would give it a lot of body. Then my bottom panel. And then the side panels. That's it. We are done. Another thing that you can do if you have trouble measuring with your ruler and or cutting straight edges with your pattern piece is you could always kind of do both. You could lay this down into place and then line up your ruler with the straight edges of that piece and then cut around. Move your pattern piece out of the way if you need to. So I've got my ruler held into place. And then I've got straight edges that fairly closely match the measurements of that piece. Okay. And then I just use a hair clip to keep all of my pattern pieces together once I'm finished with it. Like once I'm like, nah, I don't need that to help me remember what piece is what. They're fairly self-explanatory. I have also seen sheet metal under a cutting mat, and then you can use magnets to help you hold your pattern pieces together. And that's pretty cool too. Okay, make sure you're marking on the wrong side of your fabric. And for water resistant canvas that I carry, the wrong side has less of a silky texture, and when you mark on it, kind of gets white lines. So just marking out my darts. There's one lining piece. Alright, that is it for the lining that we need. I'm just going to go ahead and fold all of that back up. Put it on the shelf. And mark out darts here. And now we can cut out our stabilizer pieces from Decaville Heavy and Light. And what I absolutely love about stabilizer pieces like this is that I can use scrap. And like, this is not scrap, I would never throw this away, but it's not usable for most things, like most bags. Like this little strip here, perfect. So don't throw away your very expensive interfacing. You can always find a use for it eventually. Unless you don't have room, then do what feels best for your mental health. Okay. So there is one out of Decaville Heavy. Let's see, can we get the other one? Yes, we can. There's that. And now I'll grab my regular roll of Decaville Heavy for the rest. And I purchased this from Walk. Okay. $11. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Alrighty. So now we can fuse these pieces into place. Alright. So our stabilizers, top stabilizer pieces are going to get fused 1/2 inch from the top edge and then centered on the main body. So I'm just going to lay this ruler here. It's got a 1/2 inch edge, and then I'm going to warm this up on my heat press so that it doesn't shift. And set that into place. And I'll just press them one at a time. If you have the self-adhesive interfacing from Fabric Therapy, that would work wonderful too, because then you'd be able to just stick it into place and be done with it. You don't even have to fuse it if you don't want to, but either way. Oof, that top edge is not straight. So I'm just warming it up until my fingernails feel tacky to the stabilizer. Laying that into place. Pressing. Okay, center the bottom stabilizer on the wrong side of the exterior contrast bottom panel and fuse into place. So, same thing, warming this up, centering, pressing, and then those are the only interfacings that I'm going to be adding to this bag. I was considering putting an overlay on my lining just because I find those are a lot easier to do lately. And since I have an industrial machine that I'm sewing with, it might be easier without puckering. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna grab my accent vinyl one more time. I'm going to turn off my heat press, and I'm just going to cut an overlay that is, what was it, 10? Interior zipper pocket, yeah, so 10 by 2 is what I'm going to cut my accent to. And then I will cut out a little box for my zipper from that. So I'll show you what that looks like instead of the side of my head. What's that? A new angle? Okay, great. So yeah, 10 by 2. And I do have some overlay rulers that are really fun to use, but I find this works too. I just measure 0.75 in from the short edges, and then I measure 0.75 in from the top and the bottom, but on this I use my rotary cutter and I just go from line to line carefully. And then I carefully cut to the line if I missed it, and then cut across to join those marks. So I usually try to not quite get to the line with my rotary because you don't want to go over. But that is the overlay, super quick. Yeah. That's a good choice. Then you could even use this as a little zipper pull if you wanted. Oh, that would be so cute. Even adding like a little zipper pocket here would be super fun. It would be so little though once you get the overlay on. And like as this is on the Schmedium, I think a phone will just barely fit. But that's kind of a fun idea on the larger sizes. And then for hardware that I need, it's just going to be an 11-inch piece of zipper tape, a 10-inch piece of zipper tape, 2 1-inch rings, 2 1-inch swivel clips, a 1.5-inch slider, a 1.5-inch rectangle ring, technically some zipper pulls. There are no purse feet, and then instead of using that zipper tab, I'm going to be using a zipper end. So pretty straightforward. I should grab the stuff that I need, but I didn't. 1.5-inch slider. Of course I don't have any light gold. Okay, I'll order that. 1, 2, yeah, I don't have light gold. And then 1 rectangle ring. The simple 1.5-inch square rings that I sell on my website are a little bit of an overkill to use on the bag, but I do have some slimmer ones coming, just saying, as well as slimmer slide adjusters. Okay, that can be used on webbing. So that is all that we need to cut out for this bag, not including our zipper tape because I need to go do that. But I hope you will join me. I hope you'll join me to sew the Transponster Schmedium tote bag very soon. Bye.